Hello, everyone. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. The good news is that African-American business ownership is on the rise, up 2.3 percentage points between 2007 and 2012, the latest numbers available. In fact, entrepreneurship among African-Americans is growing faster than any other group in America. The not-so-good news, sales numbers remain painfully low. In 2012, sales of the average American business was 1.2 million. For Black businesses, that number is 72,000. Yet, despite the statistics, our guests today say they wouldn't have it any other way. They own their own businesses and are successful at it. African-American entrepreneurship. We're talking about it next on Another View, right after this news from NPR.
Discussing today's topics from an African-American perspective, this is Another View.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Another View. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. Before we start today's show, let me tell you about two very special things happening in our community that I think you will be interested in. For veterans, over at Old Dominion University, it is the Spring 2016 Veterans Workshop being facilitated by the ODU Writers in Community. Now, this is next Thursday, February the 25th, from noon until 1:30 p.m. It is for all veterans. There is no previous creative writing experience needed. It's a free workshop. Lunch will be served, and it's an opportunity for you to share some thoughts. So if you go to Facebook, to the ODU Writers in Community Facebook page, you can sign up there and find out more information. So that is the Spring 2016 Veterans Workshop facilitated by ODU Writers in Community. And I hope you will join me next Thursday, February the 25th, for Another View in a Changing World. This is a panel discussion and conversation with the World Affairs Council of Greater Hampton Roads. I will be joined by Ambassador Gina Abercrombie Winstanley and Dr. L.D. Britt of EVMS, and we're going to be talking about African-American contributions on a world stage. So that is Thursday, February the 25th. It's right here at WHRO Studios, 5200 Hampton Boulevard. And since you are a listener of Another View, if you go to www.hrwac.org and sign up, click on the button that says I'm an Another View listener, and you can get in for a very discounted price. So we hope to see you here next Thursday, February the 25th, here at WHRO for the World Affairs Council. We'll be talking about Another View in a Changing World. Both of these events are on our website, anotherviewradio.org. So if you need to go there to take a look, please feel free. So what do frozen foods, a bed and breakfast, and a full-service production company have in common? No, this is not the beginning of a bad joke. It's the uplifting story of three people who are African-American and successful business owners. What's their secret to success? How hard is it to found your own business? What advice do they have for others? Let's find out. Tanya M. Howard is founder and CEO of Mouth Meets South, which is frozen soul food and Southern cuisine. Hi, Tanya. How are you?
Good morning to you. Good afternoon.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much.
Thanks so much for joining me. Tremayne Johnson is co-founder and producer of Visually Inklined, a multimedia production company. Hi, Tremayne.
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
And joining us by phone is Monica Edwards, co-owner and innkeeper of Morehead Manor Bed and Breakfast in Durham, North Carolina. Hi, Monica. How are you?
Good afternoon, Barbara. Thank you for having me on.
We are so excited to have you with us. So I am really excited to meet the three of you because each of you are in a different phase of your business ownership. And I think that our listeners can learn a lot from you. So, Monica, I want to start with you to briefly tell us your story since you've owned your business the longest of the three entrepreneurs we have on the show today. How did you you and Daniel decide to start a bed and breakfast?
Well, when I was in corporate America and about to be laid off, someone gave us a gift certificate to stay at a local bed and breakfast. And we, even though we were well-traveled, we had never stayed at a B&B before, and were very excited about it. And when we walked away, we were like, this is something that we can do. And so that was back in 1996. And for the next year or so, whenever we traveled, we looked at B&Bs. and thinking about we would do it when we retire, because most of the people that we met, the innkeepers, were retired when they opened their inns. Just thinking about this was what we would do then. But one thing led to another, and the opportunity came for us to purchase a colonial revival-style mansion almost in the heart of Durham, North Carolina, and we decided to go for it and open a B&B.
Wow, and I know that there was some frightening times and some other things that we'll get more into detail. But Tremayne, your business also started because of your work or about to be laid off in corporate America issue.
Yeah. I was working for a company that had a very big interest in the housing market. And around 2007, that's kind of when things were going a little strange with the whole real estate bubble and all that stuff. So I kind of foresaw, there was managers and people that had held their position for years and years and years, and I only had 2 years into the company. I saw them getting laid off, so I figured I was just as expendable, and had an opportunity to jump into entertainment, multimedia. It's something I've been doing since college, but I had the opportunity that just created an opportunity for me to either jump in or stay where I was at, and I just decided to jump straight in. And me and my partner, we've been at it and
since 2007?
Since 2007. Yeah.
Fantastic. And Tanya, you worked in corporate America too. And
Yes.
still do at this point, right?
So that's what the three of us do have in common, among other things, starting our own entrepreneurial enterprises. I worked extremely long hours in corporate, 60 to 75 hours a week was not uncommon. So sometimes I would get home at night, 9, 10, and shamefully, I'm eating a bowl of Rice Krispies. I would often rely on frozen food meals. And checking out the frozen food aisles in grocery stores, I'm a huge foodie, and I love all types of food, but I would see Italian, I see Mexican, I see Mediterranean, and now I see East Indian, and it certainly dawned on me, wow, as much as I love soul food, it would be great if there's soul food here in the grocery store. While there may be other soul food products available, not pre-assembled individual meals like TV dinners or frozen food meals as we know them today. So that's when the idea kind of began in my mind.
And go from there. Excuse me, I want to interrupt for just 1 second before we continue this conversation. This is breaking news that is just happening. Fort Eustis-based personnel have implemented a lockdown procedures due to an active shooter. The last known threat area is building 650 in the processing center. That is all the news that we have right at this moment. But we will, my producer, Lisa Godley, is on top of this, and she will let me know, and I will bring the information to you as more information becomes available. Again, that is Fort Eustis. Base personnel have implemented a lockdown procedure due to an active shooter, building 650 in the processing center. So all three of you were in a situation where it kind of sounds like you could have stayed comfortable in corporate America if you wanted to, but there was another drive. So Monica, what was that other drive that just made you to say, I'm not going to wait until I retire? What makes an entrepreneur?
The drive was after going through a layoff process, and then I didn't immediately open the B&B. I actually went to work in another field as a trust tax officer at the bank, and realizing that, like Tremayne said, I think you're at your employer's disposal. If they come in tomorrow and decide they no longer want you, and you're the lowest man on the totem pole, you can go. And so I wanted to have some power over what my destiny would be.
And so can you talk a little bit about some of your fears, some of your concerns as you were embarking on your business?
Well, I at the point when we started, I really didn't have any fears. It was something new, and I just relied on faith that it was something that could happen. Now, I did my research. Given the fact that in 1997 there were over 30,000 bed and breakfasts and inns in the United States, and less than 1% of them were owned by African Americans. That truly, we stepped out on faith and understanding that we were going to be an anomaly in this business, but we didn't want to do anything we didn't want to open a daycare or something that was typical African American that in most people's eyes. My husband and I both enjoyed hospitality, and we planned events, and we had always had people staying in our homes. And to realize that we could do this and get paid for it, it was an excellent thing to do. But like I said, we did our homework. in looking at surveys and financial reports and things like that as to whether or not the area that we were looking at doing this in could support another bed and breakfast.
Mm-hmm. And Tremayne, did you do your homework also? I mean, let me tell some folks who some of your clients are, because since 2007, which is not a long time, Nike, CMF Global, Crossover, Atlantic Records, Cinematic Music Group, Deep 10, MTV, DJ Jazzy Jeff, Esther Dean, Universal Music Group, it goes on and on. So what did you think about as you and your partner started the business?
Survival. Self-preservation, man. It's something else. I think it was hard. Monica said she was able to do her homework. In the area that we're in, entertainment is not really. It's not really. It doesn't have a presence. For the type of work that we do.
Mm-hmm.
So doing homework was tough. It was really instinct. There was a lot of instinct, getting our hands dirty, making investments in ourselves, and trying.
Describe for people exactly what you do for these companies.
Okay. We do a lot of entertainment and promotional work. So music videos is a good revenue stream for us. We also do a lot of commercial work, and then on like more of the local sector, we do weddings, things of that nature. So that's what we do. We kind of provide these visual marketing campaigns that fit into a company's marketing strategy for a particular product or for a particular artist or person or things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Tanya, Mouth Meets South is brand new. I mean, you're still in the planning and marketing stages. Is that correct?
We call it pre-revenue. It hasn't been introduced to the market yet, and I'm working with a co-packer to help bring it to the market. Mm-hmm. As Tremayne and Monica have mentioned, Monica and I specifically, lots of homework. I don't have a food and beverage industry background. However, I do have an undergraduate degree in print journalism, a former reporter for Associated Press, and worked in corporate as a corporate affairs professional for many years with Fortune 20 companies. So I know business operations, I know monetizing products, and I certainly didn't feel daunted by the fact that I would be new to this. I think being a very successful entrepreneur is identifying where there's a need. There's a void in the marketplace. I'm very excited about it. And I think there are other people that match my demographic who say, why don't we do this before? So I was like, well, let's go for it. Mm-hmm. And certainly it is a journey. There's a lot there. You have your very successful days and weeks, and other days I get lots of no's, just in terms of approaching people for perhaps potential investment or to be the co-packing partner, et cetera. But you keep going, and it's been very favorable. Speaking
of the dollars, because all of you needed to find some startup money and so forth, what was that like for you, Tanya? And was that a deterrent, or just made you even more determined to move forward?
It continues to make me very determined. I'm still seeking capital. But in a conversation, Barbara, that you and I had before, I think it's important to have a lot of skin in the game. I have a lot of skin in the game, my own personal savings and drawing from different accounts, because I think it's important to track more capital in interest and attraction to be able to demonstrate that you have confidence in what you're doing by having your own money in there and having all your resources behind it. And I do.
What about you, Monica?
Well, I the same with me as far as listening to Tanya. You have to have skin in the game. I get approached a lot of times by aspiring innkeepers, and one of the first questions they ask is, are there not grants out there to start a bed and breakfast? And I'm like, no. I said, you just can't walk out there and start a business without any personal stamp of approval. You have to have your own backing, because a bank is not going to, or any other financial or investor is not going to give you any money to start a business, especially if you have no experience in the area that you're trying to go into. We were fortunate that in opening a bed and breakfast, we had to have a piece of real estate. So the bulk of the package that we presented to the SBA for our loan was for the real estate. And so it could be secured by the real estate. Mm-hmm. But we did have to come out of pocket with another probably 40% of the total package in order to show that we were liable, we could be held liable if we decide to walk away with it. And I think the other thing that is very important, and people laugh about this, is that the bed and breakfast is also our home. So if we don't do well as a business, we don't have a home.
Amen.
And I'm
That's
not
motivation.
trying to be homeless in this market today.
440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240 are the numbers to call. What questions do you have for our entrepreneurs? They are out there. They are making it on a day-to-day basis. I'm sure they've got some great advice for you. 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. So I want to ask each of you, what are the 3 musts that all successful entrepreneurs have to have? Tremayne, let me start with you.
Oh, to put me on the spot.
Yes, I am.
I was hoping I could copy somebody else's answer. For me, the biggest thing is, one, you got to understand the why you're doing it. I think when people understand why you're doing it, they can connect to you a little bit better. So you have to have a purpose. That would be my number one.
Beyond just I want to make money?
Yeah, actually, I think money. I think if you're good and you're passionate about what you do, money's just a byproduct, right? So if you're going into it for money, obviously that's an external motivation for all of us. We all have to live, but more importantly is why you're doing it. I like to believe that I have a reason for doing what I do. And then number 2 for me would be a mentor, and that's something I've yet to find, to be honest. So it's funny, it's number 2 on my list, but I haven't really found someone that to find someone who's already put in the groundwork in a particular industry that you're in, or that you're somewhere that's remotely close to it, that you're able to draw inspiration from, ask questions to, advice from. I think that's important too.
All you other business owners out there who's looking for a mentor.
Yeah, I'm definitely
pay
looking
attention.
for a
Absolutely.
mentor.
And what would be the third thing?
Man,
Those are your 2 times. A will.
I think a will. You have to have tough skin, because every day is not going to be a successful day. Every month is not going to be a successful month, and every year is not going to be a successful year. Mm-hmm. So if you're quick to give up, that's there's no room for that in being an entrepreneur.
Monica, what are the 3 musts that all successful entrepreneurs have to have?
I would say passion for what you do, number 1. You have to have the tenacity to go out there to ask for what you want, to help you with your business, to build your brand. Number 2, I basically would say, as Tremayne said, a mentor. If not a mentor, membership in a trade association so that you can actually talk and network with people who are already doing what you're doing. Even though you may not do it the same way they're doing it, at least you have a footprint and have an idea of how to go about it. And the third, I would say, is hard work. It's a pipe dream to have your own business, but it requires lots of discipline and lots of hard work.
Okay, Tanya, you want to throw your 3 in?
Sure. I think my 3 might have already been taken, but I'll just amplify. Passion is critical, maybe top of list, because you will have your long days. If you don't have passion for what you're doing to get you through those long days, the no's, the setbacks, then you're not going to make it. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people give up too easily, perhaps. And the leaders and those that end up being successful, they stick in the game. So you definitely have to be very determined and tenacious as well. One thing that I will add to the mix is that I think it's very important to have a good support system of like-minded entrepreneurs who get it, because not everybody understands why you would take on such a great risk. You could have had that safe job over there. You could get that check every 2 weeks. Why are you doing what you're doing, girl? I don't get it.
You bring up a really good point, because also is support from family and friends a critical ingredient in that also?
It is. For example, I'm married, and we have to have a mutual understanding, and I'm accountable to my husband, and he to me. I have to have his support because I work long hours. I'm sometimes getting up at the wee hours in the morning. I'm headed out to do different things. There has to be understanding of that drive that's necessary to get this off the ground successfully, or that becomes an impediment to your success.
Tremayne, I know particularly within the African-American community, now during segregation, we owned a lot of our own businesses, and then kind of when integration came along, that dropped off a bit, and some mindsets, particularly from perhaps older members of our families, are, what are you doing?
Oh man, listen, that was a huge hurdle. That was a huge hurdle, and I think a lot of those questions come from them not wanting to see you not succeed in something that's completely mythological to them. with what I do. It's a little bit less tangible of a product. It's more of an idea. It's more of a culture that I'm going for. So yeah, those questions, they were abundant early on, but what started happening is with anything, when you're steadfast with the reason why you're doing anything, and you're just consistent. What happened for me is, it was a big question with my mother, but she started seeing what I was doing on television, and everybody understands TV. And after that, there was no more questions. It was all support from then. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what separates an African American business from other businesses, Monica? Or is there anything that separates it?
I really don't think truthfully, I don't think there's any different. I think that some of the obstacles that you may encounter as an African American business owner are unique to you because you are an African American business owner.
Okay, so can you expand on that a little bit?
Well, I am the president of a state bed and breakfast association, and one of the things that I have to remind my colleagues of is that because when a person contacts me to stay at my bed and breakfast, they don't know whether I'm black, white, purple, or green. Mm-hmm. But over the course of the 18 years that we've been open, I've actually had people to come in and be very uncomfortable because they've never been in a black person's home before, let alone a business. And they're looking all around me and wanting to know where's the owner? And I said, well, I am the owner. Well, how was this house in your family? How did you get this? So it's astonishing to me. I'm sure that none of my colleagues have ever had that. And I asked them, have you ever had that occurrence? And they tell me no. Mm-hmm.
So these are other bed and breakfast owners who may not be African American, and they don't have that same question.
Exactly.
They don't have that same question answered.
No, they've never been asked that question. They've never had people to refuse to stay with them because they were non-African American.
How did you handle that situation?
Well, when it first happened, it really hurt my feelings. Mm-hmm. But as I have grown in the business, it hasn't happened lately. But when a person tells me that, my decor is not as colonial American as they had expected it to be, well, you went to my website and you saw the pictures, which I think are very indicative of what we have to offer. I'm sorry. Well, let me refer you to another bed and breakfast.
That's real.
And Tanya, you're talking about packaging soul food and Southern cuisine in the frozen food aisle. Do you think you may get some of that same type of questioning, maybe on a little bit different scale than what Monica has experienced?
Absolutely. And what Monica just expressed is real. Yes, I'm still in the process of making certain decisions, labeling the food soul food. That's what it is. I've been encouraged by certain advisors to, quote unquote, soften that and make it more broad, perhaps to just say Southern cuisine or nouveau Southern cuisine or something, because soul food would be indicative of, African American culture and tradition. So the idea that some may feel alienated or something because this is a black product, and am I restricting the type of response I may get if it's targeted to African Americans rather than a broader, where I say soul food, as we know it, is not only of interest and appeal to African Americans, but white Southerners and foodies and people who just enjoy food. Mm-hmm.
So I guess the question for both of you and also for you, Tremayne, then is, at some point, do you have to think more globally, or do you fight for, your right to say soul food? What's your thought on that?
Well, it's my product, so I've labeled it as I have. I'm all over social media. I have a website, mouthmeatsouth.com. Check it out. And clearly I say microwavable frozen soul food meals. Soul food meals is there repeatedly. I also say inspired by Southern cuisine, but I was very convicted in saying that it is soul food because that's what it is. Mm-hmm. Though others may think otherwise.
And Monica, you don't market Morehead Manor as a black bed and breakfast. You just market it as a bed and breakfast, correct?
I market it as a bed and breakfast, but we are also members of the African American Association of Innkeepers International, which is basically a website that promotes African American owned inns of color. Mm-hmm. And I tell people all the time, I said, there are people who we always talk about spending our money in our community with our people, like most other cultures do. And unless you have a network so that African American people who want to come to African American owned bed and breakfasts, they won't find us if we're not listed there.
Got you. I see. If you're just joining us, we're talking about African American entrepreneurship with Tanya Howard of Mouth Meets South Cuisine, Tremayne Johnson with Visually Inclined Productions, and Monica Edwards with Morehead Manor Bed and Breakfast. The number to call to join our conversation, 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Before we take a call, Tremayne, has race played any role in terms of your company being selected?
If it has, I wasn't aware of it. I would say that, but I don't think I deal with that as much as I deal with generational. And I'll explain to you. Like, we're a young company. I mean, the guys within the group, we're in our late 20s, early 20s, late 20s. And I'm close to being the oldest in my mid 30s. You know what I mean? So
you're an old dude.
Yeah, I'm like the old head, one of the old heads of the group. But we grew up in a specific era. We're young, we're urban, we're hip hop. So I think the prejudice sort of extends to that for us, to the culture of what we represent. We have a saying for our wedding productions. We take a modern approach to memories, and the reason why we came up with that saying is because the people that are getting married now are like my demographic, so they understand our visual perspective. So that's how we cater our product, is to what captures the visual cortex of someone our age. Mm-hmm. But if you're dealing with a more contemporary company and you're trying to, insert some of these newer practices or newer fields of video and technology and messaging, it might go over their head. So I think we deal more with a generational prejudice than a racial.
440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. John joins us from Virginia Beach. Hi, John. You're on the air.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. I just wanted to, let the people that are on your show, as well as whoever's listening, there's a little, I don't know what you want to call it, a group of people called Hatch working out of Norfolk, and they got meetings off of Granby Street. If you look them up online, it's just a group of entrepreneurs. They come together. They have meet and greets and a variety of different meetings. You can do different presentations on your business, get feedback from other people, great for networking and stuff like that. And I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks so much for the call, John.
Thank you.
We appreciate that. Mary joins us from Newport News. Hi, Mary. You're on the air.
Hi, hello.
Hi.
I wanted to ask your group if they are familiar with any entrepreneur, I would say an exchange where people who do artwork and crafts can join up with other people that maybe do computer and the business side, along with someone that does marketing, and that they can form a group and everybody serve the other one, because I know there's a lot of us who do the artwork and handicraft, that if we were to spend our time doing the computer part, which none of us are good at, or the marketing, we would not have time to make our products. And on the other side, there are a lot of people who do the computer and the business and the marketing side that are not artistic, and they need a product to promote. Mm-hmm. But we just don't seem to be able to find any group that we can link up with.
Monica, let me have you answer that, because I believe you're a part of an exchange that does exactly that, aren't you?
Well, I'm a part of a bartering group, which is probably a whole nother show for you. But what it does is it allows you to barter your services for other services for people that are in the group. But it sounds like the group that the young man was speaking about on the radio, mm-hmm. the Hatch group, may be a good source for you to start at, to find entrepreneurs that are willing to work with you to promote your art.
Okay, Mary, do you hear that?
only on the south side? Or
No. I believe it's located on the south side, but I would imagine that they would take entrepreneurs from all over.
Okay, and it's called Hatch,
HATCH. Yes.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your call. Monica, tell us a little bit more about that barter group. And is it nationwide or is it just in North Carolina?
Well, there are national groups out there, and pretty much what you do is you sign up with the group, and you have access to all of the members that are within the group. And all the members that are in the group are actually small to larger business owners who you just barter back and forth.
Okay.
The company is normally, they have an administrative office there that keeps count of when someone comes and uses your product versus when you use someone else's product. So it's kind of like a open credit type thing. And they, at the end of the year, they send you the necessary tax information that you would need to properly file your income taxes based on what you've been bartered.
Based on what you bartered. Okay. 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Judy joins us from Virginia Beach. Hi, Judy. You're on the air.
Yes, hello, good afternoon.
Hi.
I'm calling to chime in on the part where you asked the question of whether or not they should soften their, particularly for the woman who has the frozen food, soul, and also the bed and breakfast, should they soften their names to fit into a particular market? And I just wanted to say that I don't believe that companies should compromise themselves, their names, and what they stand for, simply because if homework was done, then I believe that a large part of the consumers are African American. So we shouldn't wait until we're recognized. We shouldn't wait until we're recognized for someone to come in and then buy your concept who's not of the same culture. I'm not a militant or anything like that, but I'm just tired of hearing that we have to compromise our look, what makes us, and then we turn around and we read consumer magazines and find out that we're the biggest consumers, and nothing really would be consumed to the large amount without our community who always recognize a niche first.
Okay. Thanks so much, Judy, for the call. Tanya, you want to respond?
I appreciate what she has to say. There's lots of opinions and a lot of emotion on this issue. I've done market research and I've spoken to many. I just think it's important to pay homage to this food that is found in our African American history, and I want to honor that.
Okay. Let's see if we can get another call in. Mark joins us from Norfolk. Hi, Mark. You're on the air.
Hey, good afternoon.
Hi.
I just wanted to chime in and say that, that Hampton Roads up to Richmond is kind of unique unto itself with the black entrepreneur. I've been entrepreneuring since 1987, and I can dare tell you that a lot of my co-entrepreneur friends have found it very, very, very difficult to navigate the banking system here to get the appropriate funding and the cash flow opportunities that are needed really to advance your causes. That's part one. And then number two, in this same region, the problem is that until you've been an entrepreneur and you know how critical it is when you make a decision to patronize your community and how critical it is to keep that dollar circulating multiple times before it leaves your community, if you don't know what that feels like to lose portions and pockets of that patronage, you don't really understand how critical it is. And so in this area, I just think that we need more of an awakening from a conscience standpoint. We used to have it in segregation, but when desegregation came along, we lost it all.
Okay, Mark, let me let the panelists respond because they're not going to be with us much longer, and I want to get a couple more calls in. But thanks so much for your call. I saw you nodding, Tremayne, when Mark was talking about the banking and financing.
Yeah, well, I can't say that I've had any personal experience with that because, we do a lot of self-financing, But I totally understand what he's saying. Mm-hmm. I think that I would imagine that there is a lot of bureaucracy or politics when it comes to the financing portion of things, and I think that's just a big hurdle that's hard for African American businesses to navigate is the financial portion.
Okay, Jill joins us from Newport News. Hi, Jill. You're on the air. Hello? Jill, are you there? Okay, so apparently we've lost Jill, so I will move on to one other question. So I want to ask you guys something. Monica, according to NerdWallet, there are top 10 cities that are very favorable to African-American business, and Durham is one of them. What are they doing to make a difference? And by the way, our area is number 11, so we just missed it. But what's going on in Durham that makes it so friendly to African-American business?
Well, I think one of the things is Durham has always been very progressive as far as race relations is concerned. With us having lots of tech stuff here, we have a Google hub, we have the American Underground hub, which basically is an incubator for startups and things like that. So, and people are recognizing around the country that this is a hotbed. So a lot of money is coming into the area, and the African American entrepreneurs here are latching onto it.
Okay.
We have the North Carolina Institute for Minority and Economic Development here, SCORE is here, the Small Business and Technology Development Corporation is here, and they're always willing to help you. I understand, like the gentleman that called in talked about putting money back into into your investing in your people. Until you're an African American entrepreneur, most people don't understand that because we have to get past the stereotypes that everybody wants to hook up. You have one of the things I tell my friends in order for me to thrive, I have to charge something. Otherwise, I won't be here. And what I don't understand, and I think some of the other people on the panel can also attest to this as well, is that when people come to you, when some of our brothers and sisters come to us, they want the hookup price, but yet they'll go to the Sheraton or some name brand company, and they will pay whatever Mr. John says pay.
Sure.
But yet they want me to dumb down my pricing or my services so that they can say that they had an event here at the end.
So that's something that's very, very important. Go ahead, Tanya.
Yeah, I'm going to be looking for a hookup from Tremayne in a minute. So it's coming, the cousin hookup.
That's called barter.
That's called barter.
Okay, barter is how I'm going to spin that. But I do think it's important to say, to further what Monica is saying is so true. I've been in so many conversations where folks within our community point to other ethnic groups that may be American people of color, but they may be immigrants who come here and do well. And it kind of put them down, and how were they given favor, and how were they given those resources to do? But we have to support our own. And that means, don't look for the hookup. Go and patronize your sister who owns the bed and breakfast, and support your brother and pay full price for his services, his value, his expertise, because that's what he deserves, and that's going to help him with his success.
All right, we've got about 4 minutes left in this segment. I want each of you to answer this question. I want you to fill in the blank. If I started my business today, knowing what I know now, I would do less of blank and more of blank. All right, Monica, I'm going to start with you. If I started my business today, knowing what I know now, I would do less of what and more of what?
Oh, my. I don't know where that would come from. I would probably do more technology. I mean, technology right now is my kryptonite. Keeping up with Google Analytics and social media and different things such as that to try to get heads in my bed.
Okay. And what would you do less of? Anything?
Probably not.
Okay.
Probably not.
All right. That's Monica Edwards. She is the co-owner and innkeeper for Morehead Manor Bed and Breakfast in Durham, North Carolina. Monica, thanks so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you being here. Absolutely. Take care. All right, Tremayne, I would do, if I started my business today knowing what I know now, I would do less of what and more of what?
Oh, these are two great blanks here. I think I would do less overanalyzing.
Okay.
And I would do more believing in us.
All right.
Believing in what it is that we actually do.
Fantastic. That is Tremayne Johnson, co-founder and producer of Visually Inclined. Thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate it. And Tanya, you got the last one. I started my business today knowing what I know now. I do less of what and more of what?
I would be less tentative about asking for the capital that I need when I approached angel investors. I went with a small amount, knowing the bigger amount than I need, but not being used to asking for money, needing to get over that barrier was a major thing that I needed to work on.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much. That is Tanya Howard, and she is with the I'm sorry, Mouth Meets South. There you go. And I love that name, by the way. So our entrepreneurs have given all of us some really great things to think about, and hopefully you will think outside the box. We will be right back. This is from Jae Sinnett's blog on his website, jaesinnett.com. Quote, "It was necessary because that was the only choice I gave myself, finding my way to do it, sink or swim. I realized I would limit my opportunities, so I got that steady job, which enabled me to do what I wanted artistically and survive. That's fine with me, too. I've managed to stay afloat all these years playing my music. Granted, with the help of a job I love, but for me, it's all artistically connected. Many people determine your successes if you're able to get paid playing or survive, or on who or whom you've played with, or where, or how many gigs you've had, or don't, or know, or who's talking about you or who isn't, or hanging out with, or whatever. It's all subjective." Jay was talking about his choices when it comes to his music. He's with us today to talk about his 14th body of work, 0 to 60. Welcome to Another View, Jay.
What did I walk into here? I said that. Yeah.
You said all of that. Absolutely, you did.
Thanks, Barbara,
since
for
we
having
were
me.
talking about entrepreneurship, and you've been an entrepreneur for many, many years.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's good to be back here again.
And we were just listening to Hands Up?
Hans Up.
Hans Up, pardon me.
Hans is the bass player, Hans Glavishnik from Austria. And so I thought, play on the title, Hans Up, right? Incredible musician, though, really.
What is
Remarkable.
special about 0 to 60, and what makes it different?
Simply, I think the maturity in my writing is evident on this record. I also, being a drummer, and I think most drummers are just a little bit insecure about melodic writing or melodic interpretation because we don't deal with the piano or melodic like a guitar or horn. We play a rhythm instrument. So when we think of ourselves as a composer, we're actually in a realm where we're working in that we don't on the bandstand. I don't know if this makes any sense. So when I'm writing melodies. Right. But when I'm playing on the bandstand, I'm not playing the melodies. So you have to really drummers have to really put a lot of time and focus into really learning how to construct better and more memorable melodic structures, melodies. Mm-hmm. So I put a lot of time over the past, several years in just wanting to write better melodies. And I love it when I hear people say, when they hear the music for the first time, wow, it doesn't sound like a drummer wrote this song, because it's not drum solo serenade. Right. So, melody and harmony, those things are equally as important to me as rhythm.
Mm-hmm. So that's a personal stretch for you that you keep doing, because each body of work that you've done, I've heard you talk about this whole idea of really understanding melody as opposed to...
It's a lifetime study. I mean, it really is. Because when you think of jazz, and I talk about this a lot, when you think of jazz, a lot of the jazz being released today is so intellectual, and you can't really remember what you're hearing 2 or 3 days down the road, or even an hour after you listen to it. And I think that's a big problem with jazz. And so when I was writing the music for this record, I had all these things in mind. It's still going to be rhythmically interesting because I'm a drummer. That's what I do. But I wanted the record I wanted people to remember what they're listening to when they hear this music. Mm-hmm. And I'm proud to say, we're going to give us some love here. We debuted on the chart this week, yesterday. Uh-huh. It was the highest debut on the National Jazz Week chart.
Congrats!
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so
that's fantastic.
Some 757 jazz, killing it out there.
People loving what they're hearing. That's awesome. Yeah. Well, okay, let's listen a little bit to "Never Let Me Go," Victor, and then we'll talk about it on the other side.
Okay.
All right, Jay, tell me a little bit about this song. I like that.
Never Let Me Go it's an older standard, and it's the only standard on the record. Mm-hmm. It's a song I love. Melody. It's one of those memorable, beautiful melodies. And to hear Ralph play this, Ralph Bowen, the tenor saxophone, is his tone, his intonation, his pacing, his phrasing, all these things are just evident of a master saxophone. Ralph is one of the best saxophonists playing today. I'd put him in the top 3 or 4 tenor saxophonists playing today.
That's awesome. Who else is in the band? Tell us about who's playing with you.
Well, I mentioned Hans Glavishnik is playing bass. Hans is usually heard with a lot of the great Latin players like Miguel Zenon and a host of others. He's worked with Chick Corea for a while and many other great artists. I always say the best friend of a drummer is a great bass player and the worst enemy is a bad one. But Hans is an exceptional musician. And my longtime friend, pianist Alan Farnham, who I've been playing with almost 25 years, is playing piano. And his piano playing on this record is simply magnificent.
How long have you guys been in the studio? How long did it take to put it together?
Jazz, we go in. We're not like rock or R&B people that spend a year or 2 years recording a record. We go in 2 days, man. That's it. It's like engineers looks at it, you're finished? Yeah. Nothing else we can do with that. That's it. But it's about following your intuition. And I think a lot of musicians, the studio is probably the most challenging situation for a recording artist. It just plays tricks with you. Your head, your head starts to become your worst enemy. And so many musicians go into the studio and you end up in this constant cat and mouse game with yourself. Like this perpetual one-upsmanship. We could do this better, or this is not right, And before you know it, at $125 an hour,
sometimes you got to make a decision, right?
I've gotten a lot better. When the first question you asked me about this record, I've gotten a lot better at answering the questions I have in my head about the music. Like when I record a record, early on my early records, I had if I would have done this, that could have been better there after it's already released. And so I wanted to make sure I eliminated those questions. I have no questions with this record now that it's finished. I can listen to it and say, we've achieved our objective, and I got to everything I wanted to get to.
Okay, let's listen to Whispering Souls. Victor, you got that one? Okay, I see you playing the piano while you're listening to that.
Well, you'd be amazed at how many times people have asked me, how do you write from the drums? I don't, but I get that because that's all they see me playing.
Right.
But I write from the piano because the piano's everything. I mean, everything is there at the piano, the melody, harmony, and the rhythm. And even all my drumming students, I tell them, learn the piano to some capacity. And I used to work with my best friend at the time, Abdul Salim, great saxophonist, composer. He would always say, and we were roommates for a while, and he would always say, Jay, just because you're a drummer doesn't give you a pass on learning the same things they have to, like the harmony and the theory and all these things behind music. He was the one that got me into writing my own music. And I started hearing drummers, particularly in jazz, can end up being the perpetual sideman. You're always hired to play with other people. And I would have all these ideas in my head that I could never play when I was playing with other people. So I said, the only way I may be able to do that is to write my own music.
And then do it all by myself.
And that song there, Whispering Souls, is the most played on the record right now on radio.
So you said that it took you 2 days in the studio, but it didn't take you 2 days to write the music.
Oh, it took me a couple of years to write the music.
Really? Yeah. So is this something that kind of works around in your head? You're listening, you're thinking about it constantly? Are you just jotting stuff down when you can? What's the process?
I go through periods, Barbara. It's like musicians get the equivalent of writer's block. And I read this book by Julia Cameron called The Artist Way. And it's an interactive book, but it deals with when you get in these periods where, man, you just can't think of what to write. You can't think of what to play. And so it seemed like mine was kind of like on a 2-year cycle. I'd go 2 years with nothing, no ideas. All of a sudden I wake up one morning, wow. And I have this flood of ideas that comes in, and I just started writing. And before all these ideas leave, and then it just goes away. And even the musicians that work with me closely, I mean, Terry, my bass player, jokes, it's like a year would go by. He goes, "Are you hearing anything?" I'm like, man, the well's dry right now. 6 more months would go by. What do you think? You hearing anything? No, not yet. And then I'll call him. Well, I said, Terry, I got ideas, man. so I start writing.
Patience is a virtue when it comes to playing
and
jazz.
that's important, because when I did my first record and my second record, Obsession and Blue Jay, particularly Blue Jay, because I started getting reviews in major publications like the Washington Post and the LA Times. And my first reaction was, wow, people are now becoming familiar with my music. I have to hurry up and write some more. And I ended up putting a record out, I'm not going to tell you which one, that I just ended up not liking. For that reason, I just rushed. When I listen to it, it's okay, but deep down inside, I said, I can't rush this. And if I don't have the ideas, then I'm not going to do it until I have the ideas.
This one, there's a piece about you when you talk about this particular piece of work. There's different, because you and I have had several conversations on the radio about different song albums that you've come out with and so forth. But I feel a different vibe from you this time in terms of, I don't know, a piece, a proudness, but not haughty, but a, I really like this one.
Well, I think you asked me this, and other people have asked me this, and I was quoted by the Daily Press. I was quoted as saying, I quit. I'm not going to do this anymore.
Yeah. And
then something hit me, and I just said, you know what? I need to do a jazz record and get rid of all the funk stuff and all these things. And I wanted, I just had to do a straight up jazz record again. And I had to use different musicians on this one. And I'm glad I did. Can I tell people very quickly where they can get it?
Yep. I was just getting ready to ask you that.
Locally, the CD's at Birdland Records in Virginia Beach, Providence Square Shopping Center. It's on cdbaby.com, iTunes, and Amazon. And if you listen to the record repeatedly and endlessly on Spotify and Apple Music, we don't get paid.
Okay, you got that plug in there. Thank you so much, Jay. We really appreciate it. We're going to listen to a little bit more as we go out. But thank you, audience, so much for joining us today. And if you'd like to hear this show again or share it with a friend, please visit anotherviewradio.org and download the podcast. You can also sign up for our eView newsletter, a once-a-week reminder of upcoming shows. We're on Facebook, so please like us. And I'm on Twitter at Barbara Ham Lee. Next week, our favorite cardiologist, Dr. Keith Newby, joins us to talk about heart health. Our theme music was composed and performed by Jae Sinnett. Lisa Godley is our show producer. Victor Bowen is our audio engineer, and Melanie Booth answered our phones. I'm Barbara Ham Lee. Let's listen to some more of 0 to 60, and then let's get together again next Friday at noon for another view. The closed music is Farmhands.